Welcome, grab a popcorn, relax, you will enjoy this story, and please do not forget to subscribe to this channel.
Lawrence stood still after she was gone. He did not like threats. But more than that, he did not like the thought of Bianca turning her attention toward Lillian. He picked up his phone.
Grace, I need Lillian's location for the day. Now.
That same evening, Lillian arrived at one of the most expensive hotels in the city. She stepped out of the car with calm steps, but she was not the only one arriving. Vanessa was smiling proudly. "We are lucky," she said as they walked. "Do you know what it means to even be considered by the Obiora family?" Mrs. Margaret smiled widely. "I knew you would not fail us." Clara added, "First Okoro group, now Obiora family. This is real progress." Femi's face looked more controlled than before, but pride was still there. The shame from the contract event had not humbled him enough. Then Vanessa saw Lillian. She stopped at once. Mrs. Margaret followed her gaze and nearly hissed. "This girl again?" Clara rolled her eyes. "Has she no shame at all?" Femi's jaw tightened. Vanessa laughed softly. "Of course, she followed us." Lillian looked at them but did not answer. Mrs. Margaret stepped forward.
"Why are you here? Do you want Femi to change his mind?"
Clara folded her arms. "She is desperate." Vanessa tilted her head and smiled with poison in it. "You should be in one corner mourning the rich man you lost, not running after him from place to place."
Stop this.
I did not come here for you.
They laughed. Before another word could be said, the hotel entrance manager stepped out. He was a middle-aged man with a stiff manner and a sharp face. After hearing only part of the matter, he quickly picked a side. "What is going on here?" he asked. Vanessa answered first. "This woman has no business here. This hotel is clearly closed to ordinary guests tonight, but she followed us here." The manager looked at Lillian with instant contempt. "Madam, this hotel is not open to the public tonight. Important people are inside." Lillian reached into her bag and calmly brought out her invitation card. "This is mine," she said. The manager took it from her. He barely looked at it. Instead, with a dry smile, he tore it straight across the middle. Mrs. Margaret gasped, then laughed. Clara clapped a hand over her mouth in delight. Vanessa shook her head as if watching a fool expose herself. Lillian looked at the torn card in his hand. When she raised her eyes again, her voice was quiet.
You have just destroyed something far above your level.
The manager laughed. "Who do you think you are?" The others laughed too. Vanessa said, "Please stop acting. It does not fit you." Mrs. Margaret looked Lillian over with fresh disgust. "With a face like this, she probably fooled one old man somewhere and came to disturb people here." Clara nodded quickly. "Yes, she always acts innocent." Femi did not laugh this time, but he did not defend her either. Lillian simply took out her phone and called Uncle Joseph. When he answered, she spoke only one sentence. "I have been insulted at the hotel entrance." Then she ended the call. She looked at the manager. "You have 3 minutes." The manager laughed harder. 3 minutes for what? Lillian said nothing. The Adiemi family thought she was bluffing again. Vanessa leaned close to Femi and whispered loudly enough for Lillian to hear, "She is trying too hard." 1 minute passed. Then 2. By the middle of the 3rd minute, footsteps came rushing from inside. A well-dressed man ran toward the entrance with 2 senior staff behind him. This was the hotel's general manager. The moment he saw Lillian, his face lost all color. Then, to the shock of everybody standing there, he rushed forward and dropped to his knees before her. "First, young madam," he said breathlessly, bowing his head, "please forgive us." Everything went still. The manager who had torn the card nearly dropped where he stood. Mrs. Margaret's mouth opened. Clara looked from one face to another like she had stopped understanding the world. Vanessa's confident smile disappeared completely. Even Femi's eyes changed. The general manager remained on his knees. I am deeply sorry. I was informed too late. This should never have happened. Lillian looked down at him calmly. Your entrance manager tore my invitation card. The general manager turned sharply to the man and looked as if he wanted to collapse from rage. The smaller manager began to stammer. Sir, I did not know. You ruined your own career, the general manager snapped. Then he faced Lillian again and bowed lower. First, young madam, I beg you, please forgive this disgrace. Those words settled over the others like heavy dust. First, young madam. Not cleaner. Not abandoned wife. Not desperate woman. First, young madam. The same woman they had mocked a minute ago. Mrs. Margaret recovered first, but only partly. Her voice shook with forced confidence. This must be some kind of mistake. Vanessa spoke next, though more weakly than before. Or maybe she borrowed somebody's connection again. Clara nodded too quickly. Yes, that must be it. Mrs. Margaret lowered her voice and muttered bitterly, with that innocent face she may have trapped one old rich man somewhere. Femi said nothing, but Lillian saw the fear beginning to enter his eyes. Not full fear. Not yet. But enough. Enough for him to know that he had stepped on something he did not understand. Enough for him to begin to wonder who this woman really was. The general manager rose and stepped aside respectfully. Please, first young madam, he said. They are waiting for you upstairs. Lillian did not look at the Adeyemi family again. She walked past them and entered the hotel. And as the doors closed behind her, the people who had spent days insulting her stood frozen at the entrance, holding the first real taste of a truth they were not ready for. The seed of fear had entered their hearts, and this time, it would not leave easily. The hotel doors closed behind Lillian, but the shock on the faces outside stayed with her. A staff member led her to the private lift. Nobody spoke on the way up. When the lift opened, 4 elderly men were already waiting in a quiet lounge on the top floor. These were men Lillian had known since she was a girl. Chief Benson Obi, a careful old businessman with a deep voice and sharp eyes. Chief Peter Dyke, a large-hearted man who always spoke plainly. Chief Gabriel Eze, calm and observant, the kind of man who noticed everything before others did. And Chief Tunda Balagon, who rarely smiled in business matters but had always treated Lillian like a daughter. The moment they saw her, their faces softened. Lillian, Chief Benson said, opening his arms. She walked to them, and each of them welcomed her warmly. We missed you, Chief Peter said. You vanished on us, Chief Gabriel added, though there was affection in his voice. Chief Tunde looked at her closely. You have lost peace in your face. That one touched her. They all sat down, and for a few moments nobody rushed her. They let her breathe first. Then Chief Benson asked the question quietly. How has your marriage truly been? That was all it took. Lillian did not cry. She was already past the point of easy tears, but she told them everything. She told them how she had left the comfort of her family because she loved Femi and wanted a normal life. How she had hidden her identity. How she had spent 2 years living as an ordinary woman. How she had worked as a cleaner without shame because she wanted to stand beside the man she loved, not above him. How she had quietly helped Femi's family from the shadows again and again. How she had asked Lawrence Okoro to support Adeyemi construction. How the same day the breakthrough came, Femi had divorced her. How Vanessa mocked her. How Mrs. Margaret treated her like dirt. How she was insulted, searched, and dragged through shame by the very people she had helped. By the time she finished, the room was silent. But it was not empty silence. It was anger. Chief Peter was the first to speak.
That boy is a fool. Femi, you are blind to the consequences of your actions. After everything, this is how he repays you?
He stopped and shook his head.
The question is, should Adeyemi construction remain part of the expansion?
No.
Her voice was calm.
The Adeyemi family is not worthy.
All 4 men nodded. Chief Gabriel asked,
So, Who should take the place of the Adeyemis?
Lillian was quiet for a moment. Then she said,
Lawrence Okoro.
"He is capable," she said. "He is disciplined. He thinks before he moves, and when truth stood alone, he stood beside it." Chief Peter smiled faintly. "So you noticed that too?" Chief Benson nodded slowly. "That is a serious name." "It is a worthy one," Lillian replied. Chief Tunde studied her face carefully, but he said nothing. The meeting ended not long after that. When Lillian rose to leave, she felt lighter than when she came in. Not happy, not healed, but steadier. For the first time in a long while, she had spoken the truth before people who saw her clearly. A few days later, the Obiora family event finally arrived. It was bigger than the hotel meeting and far more public, though still controlled. Outside the grand venue, expensive cars lined the road. Femi arrived with Vanessa, Mrs. Margaret, and Clara, all dressed with fresh confidence. Vanessa walked as if the whole night had already bowed to her. "I told you," she said proudly, "this is bigger than Okoro Group. Once we step into the Obiora circle, everything changes." Mrs. Margaret smiled with satisfaction. "That Lawrence Okoro thinks he can block us. Let him watch." Clara laughed. "Once we enter here, people will know our level." Femi said little, but his silence carried pride. They reached the entrance and handed over their invitation cards. The staff checked once, then checked again. Then their expressions changed. "Your invitations have been invalidated," one of the attendants said. Vanessa frowned. "What?" The man kept his voice polite. "I am sorry, these are no longer active." Mrs. Margaret stepped forward. "Do you know who we are?" The attendant did not move. "I only know what is on the system, madam." Clara's face fell. "This is impossible." Vanessa snatched the cards and looked at them again as if they would change by force. Guests nearby had already begun to glance in their direction. Femi's face darkened with shame. Then another car stopped. The door opened. Lillian stepped out. She was dressed simply again, but there was something deeper in the way she carried herself now. She looked calm, settled, almost untouchable. The attendant at the premium entrance saw her at once and bowed slightly. "Good evening, ma'am." Lillian handed over a different card. This one was not ordinary. It was a dark, premium invitation, the kind only a few people received, the kind reserved for names that did not need introduction. At once, the gates opened. A different staff member stepped forward respectfully. "Please come in, ma'am." Mrs. Margaret's mouth went dry. Clara looked ready to faint. Vanessa stared hard but said nothing. Femi stood still. Around them, some guests were already whispering. That was no borrowed pass. That was no pity invitation. That was the kind of access people only got when they belonged near the center of power. And for the first time, more than one person in that crowd began to suspect that Lillian was not merely connected to powerful people. She might actually be one of them. Lillian walked inside without looking back. At the main hall, she found the front row and took her seat calmly. It was the kind of seat reserved for the most honored people of the night. Many guests noticed at once. So did Bianca Uba. Bianca had entered earlier with the careless confidence of a woman who thought the room would bend around her. The moment she saw Lillian in that seat, her face tightened. She walked over at once with two wealthy men and a woman behind her. One of the men spoke first. "Excuse me, that seat is not for you." Lillian looked up calmly. "Is that so?" "It is," Bianca said. "Stand up." Lillian did not move. Bianca's voice sharpened. "You have embarrassed yourself enough already. Do not add shamelessness to it." One of the men laughed. "These days, some people only need one rich person to pity them before they forget where they came from." Before Lillian could speak, another voice came in. "She is staying there." It was Lawrence. He stepped to her side and stood there without hesitation. Bianca looked from him to Lillian and back again. "So you came with her?" Lawrence said calmly, "I came because I was invited. I stayed because I chose to." Bianca laughed once bitterly. "You keep doing this for her as if she is worth a war." Lawrence's face did not change. Be careful. But Bianca was already too angry to stop. She turned to the people around them. Everyone should hear this clearly. If Lawrence Okoro insists on placing this woman above sense, I will use my family's money to crush Okoro Group in 5 minutes. A murmur spread through the hall. Lawrence's eyes hardened, but Lillian remained calm. She looked at Bianca and said quietly, "Do it." Bianca blinked. "What?" Lillian leaned back in her chair. "Do it. Let everyone here see whether your power is truly what you claim." That only pushed Bianca further. She took out her phone at once, stepped aside, and made the call. Orders moved fast through her family network. Traders, brokers, and business allies began to push against Okoro Group. Within minutes, some people in the hall began checking their phones. Everybody waited. Lawrence's face remained unreadable, but what Bianca did not know was that Lillian had already moved too. With one quiet phone call and 2 short messages, she shifted private funds she controlled, gave sharp instructions, and blocked the attack before it could bite. The same calm mind that had saved Lawrence's company before was working again. Time passed. 1 minute. 3. 5. Nothing happened. Okoro Group remained steady, then steadier still. No collapse. No panic. No fall. Bianca checked her phone again and again, but the results stayed the same. Lillian looked at her. 5 minutes have passed, she said. You promised too much. Kneel and apologize. The room went still. Bianca's face had lost color. She did not kneel. But fear had already entered her, and everyone could see it. Lillian was no longer being seen as merely a woman Lawrence was protecting. She was beginning to look like a force by herself. Just when that feeling began spreading fully through the hall, a senior staff member from the Obiora business side rushed over. He was a proud man in a fitted suit, and his face carried too much confidence. He pointed at Lillian and said loudly, "This is nonsense. She cannot be first young madam. I have worked within the Obiora business circle for years, and I have never seen her before." Bianca turned at once. Vanessa, who had slipped into the hall earlier through Bianca's side access, lit up with fresh hope. "There," Vanessa said loudly. "What did I say? She has been exposed." Bianca stepped forward. "Exactly. Everyone can finally see it now. She's a fraud." A few people began murmuring again. The staff member puffed out his chest. This seat should be cleared. But before the confusion could grow, the doors at the side of the hall opened. Uncle Joseph walked in. Security followed behind him. The atmosphere changed immediately. He walked straight to Lillian, bowed respectfully, and said in a clear voice, "First young madam." The hall fell silent. Then Uncle Joseph turned to the staff member and his face became hard. "You," he said, "are too small to know every person your masters honor. Your ignorance is not proof, it is only ignorance." The man went pale. Uncle Joseph did not stop. "You overstepped your place. From this moment, you no longer work under any Obiora company." The man shook. "Sir." "Take him out." Security moved at once. The man tried to speak again, but he was dragged out before he could form a full sentence. The room shook with whispers. Vanessa's face changed again. Bianca was breathing harder now, but pride still held her up. She laughed sharply and said, "Anyone can act. Anyone can lie. One old man greeting her does not prove anything." Then she went further. "For all we know, she may have seduced him into helping her." Lawrence's eyes flashed, but before he spoke, the main doors opened again. The 4 elder businessmen from the hotel entered together. Chief Benson, Chief Peter, Chief Gabriel, Chief Tunde. Their presence changed the whole hall. People stood up at once. Those men did not waste time. They walked straight to Lillian and greeted her openly with respect. Chief Benson turned and faced the room. "Whoever insulted her insulted this family." Chief Peter pointed toward Vanessa first. "You, step forward." Vanessa's legs almost gave way. Then Bianca. Then the others who had spoken carelessly. One after another, Powerful guests who had mocked Lillian were forced to kneel and apologize. Vanessa's voice shook so badly that people could barely hear her. Chief Gabriel looked at her coldly. "If you speak against her one more time, I will see to it that your family does not survive it." Vanessa nearly collapsed. Still, not everyone gave up. A wealthy older guest lifted his voice carefully. "Respectfully, elders, there is still the matter of the official symbol of succession in the Obiora family. If she is truly who you say she is, where is the proof?" That question kept the tension alive. Bianca quickly held on to it. "Yes," she said. "Exactly. All this noise and greeting still does not change one thing. She is only strong because the Obiora family is backing her." Lillian slowly stood. Then she spoke. "Very well." The room quieted again. "I will not use one kobo of Obiora family money," she said. Bianca gave a small, bitter smile. "Good." Lillian turned to Lawrence. "Do you trust me?" Lawrence did not hesitate. "Yes." She held out her hand. "Your phone." He gave it to her. In front of the room, Lillian made 2 short calls, sent instructions through Lawrence's trading channels, and redirected pressure toward Bianca's family company with a clean, sharp strategy. No noise. No drama. Just clear moves. Within minutes, phones began vibrating across the hall. Bianca checked hers first. Her face drained. Then her own father called. She answered with shaking fingers. "What did you do?" he shouted so loudly that even people nearby heard. "Our stock is dropping. Investors are pulling out. What have you done?" Bianca tried to speak, but her mouth had gone dry. "This is your fault," her father shouted again. "You have brought trouble to this house." The call ended. Bianca stared at the phone in disbelief. Now there was no hiding it. Lillian was not just powerful because of family blood. She was powerful because she knew exactly what she was doing. A real business queen. Fear spread through the room. Some of the same wealthy people who had mocked her before now stepped forward with trembling voices. "Please, show mercy. We spoke out of turn. Do not destroy us." They expected revenge. They expected her to finish them. But Lillian looked around the room and said calmly, "One company should not swallow everything. One family should not destroy all others. Business is not healthy that way. A country grows when there is room for many people to build, compete, and rise. If everybody keeps fighting to bury one another, nobody truly wins." The room went silent again. This time, with respect. Her mercy made her look bigger than punishment would have. At the end of the gathering, Chief Benson stepped forward and spoke on behalf of the elders. "For the Obiora family's new expansion," he said, "we believe Okoro Group is the most suitable primary partner." There was no resistance left. Lawrence's company rose even higher that night. And outside the main hall, where Femi, Mrs. Margaret, and Clara had been forced to watch much of the event from the outer reception screens, silence sat heavily on them. They watched Lillian stand in a kind of power they had once laughed at. A power too calm to beg, too high to chase them, too real to deny. And for the first time, they understood something painful. They had not only lost a woman, they had thrown away a world they could never reach. After the Obiora event, the whole city changed the way it spoke Lillian's name. Some people still whispered. Some still doubted. But nobody laughed as freely as before. The ones who had mocked her now spoke carefully, as if her name might open or close doors. Lillian did not chase any of that noise. She stayed quiet. She met the elders when necessary. She answered Uncle Joseph when he called, and when she was alone, she tried to settle her own heart. But one thing had changed clearly. Whenever she thought of Lawrence Okoro, her chest no longer stayed still. She respected him. She trusted him. And though she tried not to dwell on it too much, she knew his kindness had entered a place inside her that Femi's pride had only wounded. A few days later, she went to the biggest luxury mall in the city to choose a dress for the welcoming banquet and succession event. She wore a simple outfit and dark glasses, hoping to shop quietly. But peace did not last long. She had just stepped out of one luxury store with 2 attendants following behind her when she heard a familiar voice. "Lillian." She turned. Vanessa, Mrs. Margaret, and Clara were walking toward her. For 1 second, Lillian almost laughed at the sight. They looked softer than before, careful, almost humble. Vanessa gave a smile that did not reach her eyes. "We were hoping to see you." Mrs. Margaret forced a warm tone. "My daughter, let us not continue all this bitterness." Clara nodded quickly. "Yes, we are all women. There is no need for too much hatred." Lillian looked at each of them and said nothing. She could see through them too easily now. Their faces had changed, but their hearts had not. They were not sorry for how they treated her. They were only adjusting themselves to the price they now thought she carried. Mrs. Margaret stepped closer. "What happened before? Let us leave it behind." Vanessa added, "We may have misunderstood some things." Lillian's expression did not change. She simply turned and continued walking. That was all it took. Vanessa's fake softness vanished first. "Look at her," she snapped. "She is acting as if she is too big to answer." Clara's face changed too. She was waiting for us to beg her. Mrs. Margaret's mouth hardened. "This is why some people should never taste power." Lillian stopped and turned back slowly. Vanessa folded her arms. "Let us say it plainly. So what if you have money now? You think that makes you better than us?" Mrs. Margaret looked around the store and said loudly, "People like you do not belong in places like this." Clara added, "Wearing luxury will not change where you came from." Vanessa stepped forward. "Exactly. Expensive clothes do not make a woman classy. You are still the same person underneath." Lillian held her gaze. Then she said calmly, "Money does not make me better than you. Character does. That is why even with all this noise you still look small." Their faces changed at once. Vanessa opened her mouth to answer, but another voice came first. "And that is the kindest thing anyone could say to you today." They all turned. Lawrence was walking toward them. He looked from one face to another and did not bother hiding his disgust. Mrs. Margaret tried to recover first. "Mr. Okoro, You were only doing what you know best," Lawrence said coldly. "Following her around to insult her." Vanessa forced a smile. "You are misunderstanding." "No," Lawrence replied. "I understand you very well." Clara took a step back. Lawrence moved to Lillian's side without hesitation. Then he looked at the store manager, who had already rushed over after noticing the tension. "This brand," Lawrence said. "How many stores do you have in this city?" The manager blinked. "Sir? How many?" "6, sir." Lawrence took out a card and handed it to him. "Call your head office. I'm buying all of them." The manager froze. Vanessa stared. Mrs. Margaret's mouth opened. Clara looked from Lawrence to Lillian and back again. Lawrence's voice remained calm. "All 6 outlets. Today." The manager took the card with shaking hands. "Sir, all 6? "Yes." Vanessa laughed in disbelief. "You cannot be serious." Lawrence turned to her. "I usually am." Then he looked at the manager again. "And when the papers are ready, they will be transferred in her name." He nodded toward Lillian. The manager almost bowed. "Yes, sir. I will contact them now." Silence fell around them. Even Lillian had not expected that. She looked at Lawrence. "You do not need to do this." He met her eyes. "I know." There was something quiet in the way he said it that touched her more than the act itself. It was not noise, not the proud kind of giving some men use to show power. It was simple, protective, steady. And in that moment, standing beside him in the bright mall, Lillian felt the difference sharply. Femi had always wanted to be seen. Lawrence wanted her protected. That difference entered her heart and stayed there. Vanessa's face was burning now. "This is madness." Lawrence looked at her and said, "No. Madness is thinking you still have the right to speak to her this way." He turned to Lillian. "Did you get what you came for?" She gave a small nod. "Good," he said. Then let us leave them with their shame. He offered his arm lightly, not forcing, just there. After one small pause, Lillian placed her hand on it. They walked away together. Vanessa stood where she was, speechless with fury. Mrs. Margaret's whole body shook with frustration. Clara whispered, "Mummy." None of them had words strong enough for what they were feeling. By the time Lillian and Lawrence were gone, the store staff were looking at the three women differently too. Not with respect, with caution. And that only made the shame worse. Later, after she and Lawrence parted outside the mall, Lillian got into her car and sat quietly for a moment. Her fingers rested on her phone, but her mind was still on him. On the way he had spoken for her, on how safe she had suddenly felt, on how her heart had responded before her mind could stop it. She let out a slow breath, then made a call. The person on the other end answered quickly. "Yes, ma'am." "It's me," Lillian said. "The three women who just caused trouble at the luxury wing." "Yes, ma'am." "Throw them out of the mall. Ban them completely." There was no hesitation. "At once, ma'am." Lillian ended the call and leaned back. For once, she did not feel guilty. 10 minutes later, Vanessa was still ranting in the store when mall security arrived. "Madam," one of them said politely, "you and your party have been asked to leave." Vanessa laughed. "By who?" "You are no longer allowed in this mall." Mrs. Margaret stepped forward. "Do you know who I am?" The officer's face did not change. "You are no longer allowed in this mall, madam." Clara's face turned pale. "What?" Vanessa's voice rose. "I am a VIP member here." The officer nodded once. "Not anymore." Vanessa looked ready to explode. "Who is high enough to do this to me?" But no answer came. Security only moved closer, and for the second time in recent days, she was pushed out of a place she had thought would bend to her. Outside, she was still shouting when the doors closed behind them. Inside the mall, life moved on as if they had never been there. But while one storm was fading, another was rising quietly. In the Obiora family, not everyone was happy about Lillian's return. Among those smiling publicly and greeting her politely was a younger cousin named Sonia Obiora. Sonia was beautiful, clever, and always neat in the way she carried herself. She spoke sweetly when people were watching. She knew how to bow, how to greet, how to sound loyal. But inside her, jealousy had grown for years. She believed Lillian was too soft, too simple, too emotional, too willing to believe in love and goodness. In Sonia's mind, a family head should be sharp, hard, and impossible to embarrass. And more than anything, she believed that if somebody like Lillian could inherit all that power and wealth, then someone like her deserved it more. So when she saw Bianca disgraced and angry after the last gathering, she saw opportunity. She arranged to meet Bianca in private. Bianca arrived bitter and restless. Sonia did not waste time. "You want revenge," she said. Bianca laughed dryly. "Who said that?" "You do not have to say it. It is already written on your face." Bianca said nothing. Sonia leaned back. "I want the same thing you want. Lillian out of the way." Bianca's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because once she is gone," Sonia said quietly, "the succession path clears." That caught Bianca's full attention. Sonia went on, "Help me remove her before the official ceremony. In return, I will make sure you are compensated in ways that matter." Bianca looked at her for a long moment. Then she smiled slowly. She had lost too much already. She had nothing left to protect. "Fine," she said. "Tell me the plan." The trap was set quickly. That evening, Lawrence received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was low and urgent. "If you care about Lillian, come alone. She is in danger." The call ended before he could ask another question. Lawrence did not hesitate. He got into his car and drove straight to the location sent to his phone. It was an old, unfinished building at the edge of a quiet area. Dark. Half empty. Too still. The moment he stepped inside, he knew something was wrong. Lillian was not there. Instead, heavy footsteps moved behind him. Before he could fully turn, men came from both sides. One grabbed him, another blocked the exit. Lawrence fought hard, but there were too many of them. He was shoved against a pillar and held there. Then Bianca stepped out of the shadows. Her face was twisted with satisfaction. "You came faster than I thought," she said. Lawrence's eyes hardened. "Where is Lillian?" Bianca smiled. "So worried." A second voice came from the dark. "That is because he really cares." Sonia stepped forward. Lawrence recognized her at once from the family events. "You," he said. Sonia smiled lightly. "Yes, me." Then another voice came from behind them. "And me." Both women turned sharply. Lillian walked in. Alive, calm, unshaken. Bianca's eyes widened. Sonia's face changed for the first time. Lillian looked from them to Lawrence, who was being held. "I knew something was wrong the moment that call went out," she said. "So I made my own arrangements before coming." She had. Long before stepping in, she had already placed security around the area, hidden recorders, and informed trusted men to move only when she gave the signal. She had suspected Sonia for days. Bianca had only made the trap easier to see. Sonia recovered first. "You think you are clever." Lillian faced her. "Clever enough not to die for your ambition." Bianca took a step back. "This was not how it was supposed to happen." Sonia's face twisted. "Then finish it." That was the point where fear broke Bianca's pride. "No!" she shouted suddenly. "This was your plan. Yours!" Sonia turned on her. "Shut up!" But Bianca was already collapsing under pressure. "She is the one who approached me," Bianca cried. "She said if Lillian dies or disappears, the succession will clear for her. She said once Lillian was gone, she would take over the family and make sure everything fell into place." Sonia stared at her in cold fury. Lillian said nothing. She only watched. Bianca went on, almost breathless now. "She told me to help ruin Lillian, to help remove her. She said no one would trace it back if we acted fast." That was enough. Lillian raised one hand. At once, security rushed in from different corners. The men holding Lawrence released him immediately and tried to run, but they were overpowered. Bianca dropped to her knees in panic. Sonia looked around once, judged the situation, and did the only thing left to her. She ran. "Catch her!" one of the men shouted. But Sonia moved fast and disappeared through the back before anyone could stop her. Bianca began crying. Lillian looked at her quietly. "Please," Bianca said. "Please don't kill me." Lillian's face did not change. "Your life is not mine to take." She turned to the security men. "Take her away. She will answer for what she has done." Bianca was dragged away, still begging. Soon the building was quiet again. Only Lillian and Lawrence remained standing there with two guards at a respectful distance. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lawrence stepped closer. "You came for me." Lillian looked at him. "Of course I did." "You could have stayed away and let security handle it." Her voice softened. "No." That simple answer stayed between them. Lawrence's eyes searched her face. "You planned ahead." "I had to." He gave a short laugh, full of relief more than humor. "You keep surprising me." Lillian looked at him properly then. The night around them had become quiet again. The danger had passed. And now that they were standing alone in the silence after it, neither of them could fully hide what was there anymore. Lawrence spoke first. "I do not know when exactly it happened," he said, "but somewhere between that boardroom and now, you stopped being just somebody I admired." Lillian's heartbeat changed. He went on quietly, "I think about you too much. I worry about you too easily. And when I thought you were in danger tonight, I did not stop to think. I just came." Lillian looked down for a second, then back at him. "You are not the only one," she said softly. That was all he needed to hear. He lifted one hand slowly and touched her face lightly. Lillian did not pull away. For one breathless moment, the distance between them disappeared. They leaned in. Not fully, not yet, but close enough to feel the warmth of the moment. Then both of them paused at the same time. Lillian stepped back first. shy all of a sudden. Lawrence let out a breath and looked away for a moment. The air between them had changed completely. Lillian's cheeks were warm now. "I should go," she said quietly. Lawrence nodded, though he did not look pleased about the distance. "Yes?" She gave him one small, shy glance, then turned and walked to the waiting car. As she left, a smile she could not control touched her lips. For the first time in a long time, it was not a painful one. The welcoming banquet and succession event arrived soon after. The hall was grand, full, and loud with expectation. Sonia had not been seen publicly since the failed trap, and that had made people talk even more. But before the truth could settle, she walked onto the stage herself. Dressed beautifully and carrying false confidence, she smiled at the room as though nothing had happened. Some of the guests looked confused. Others leaned forward. Sonia lifted the microphone and began speaking like someone already in control. She suggested that Lillian was absent because she was not fit to lead. She hinted that difficult truths would soon become clear. She spoke as though the family needed strong hands and not soft hearts. Among the guests were Femi, Vanessa, Mrs. Margaret, and Clara. They had come hoping Sonia would rise and remember who stood with her. If she won, maybe doors would open for them again. If Lillian fell, maybe they could still escape shame. Sonia kept talking, trying to force the room into accepting her confidence. Then the hall doors opened. An older man walked in. Tall, controlled, distinguished. The room fell into shocked silence. It was Lillian's father. He had just returned from the United States. Sonia's words died in her throat. She had not expected him. And as she stood there trying to recover, another movement came from the entrance. Everyone turned. Lillian walked in. Alive. Unharmed. Dressed in luxury so effortless and natural that the whole room seemed to pause around her. Sonia's face drained at once. Because earlier that evening she had received a call confirming that Lillian had been taken care of. Now she understood. That too had been part of Lillian's plan. The trap had never been for Lillian. It had been for her. And as Lillian stepped fully into the light, the entire hall understood that whatever game Sonia thought she had been playing, she had already lost. Her face was still frozen when Lillian stopped in the middle of the hall. The whole room had gone silent. Lillian's father stood near the entrance, tall and still, with the kind of presence that made people straighten without thinking. Beside him stood some of the family elders and a few men from the inner circle of the Obiora Empire. Their arrival alone had already changed the air in the room. But it was Lillian's entrance that finished it. She walked in with quiet grace, dressed in rich gold and deep wine tones, simple but breathtaking. There was no fear on her face, no confusion, no sign of the danger Sonia thought she had arranged for her. Sonia looked at her like she had seen a ghost. For 1 second she truly could not speak. Then, because pride was the only thing still holding her up, she lifted her chin and forced words out. "This changes nothing," she said, though her voice was not as steady as before. "Being an heir is more than showing up. It is more than blood, more than a ring, more than a family name. Leadership is not something you wear like jewelry." A few heads turned. Sonia grabbed hold of that small opening and pushed harder. "People are standing here dazzled by appearance," she said. "But being born into a family does not automatically make somebody fit to lead it. A symbol is not enough. Blood is not enough. A title is not enough." She looked around the room as if she still had control. "It takes strength," she said. "It takes sharpness. It takes—" The slap landed before she finished. The sound cracked across the hall. Sonia staggered sideways and held her face. The room went still again. Lillian's father stepped forward, his face dark with anger. "You ungrateful girl," he said. Sonia looked up at him in shock, one hand still on her cheek. He did not lower his voice. "I paid your school fees," he said. "I fed you. I covered your needs when others would have turned away. This family carried you, protected you, and gave you a place to stand. And now, because of that kindness, you started to believe you could take what was never yours." Sonia's lips parted, but no words came. "You mistook mercy for weakness," he said. You mistook help for permission." His voice dropped, but somehow it felt even heavier. "You are standing here talking about worthiness after plotting against the daughter of this house." The room stirred. Sonia quickly shook her head. "That is not true." But Lillian was already moving. She had come prepared. She gave one signal, and a large screen behind the stage came alive. At first it showed nothing but a dark room. Then voices began to play. Sonia's voice, Bianca's voice. Clear, sharp, impossible to deny. The room listened as Sonia spoke of removing Lillian before the succession. As Bianca, under pressure, confessed that Sonia had approached her first. As details of the trap, the plan, and the hope of taking over the family after Lillian disappeared came out one after another. Faces changed across the hall. Shock, disgust, unbelief. Sonia's knees almost buckled. "That is edited!" she cried. "It is not complete!" But then another recording played. This time it was from one of the men she sent. Then messages followed on screen. Arrangements. Payments. Orders. And finally the call record showing the false report that Lillian had been taken care of. The truth stood naked in front of everybody. No more room to twist anything. No more room to hide behind confidence. Sonia was exposed not just as jealous, but as dangerous. And worse than that, unworthy. She looked around wildly, but there was no face left in the room ready to save her. Then security moved in. Sonia turned quickly. "No, you cannot do this to me." But nobody answered her. The same girl who had tried to take the stage by force was now standing in the full light of her own greed, and the weight of it was crushing her. Lillian's father did not even look at her again. He turned to the room and said, "From this day, let nobody ever question where this family stands." Then he walked to Lillian. The elders followed. One after another, the respected men of the Obiora circle and their allied business leaders publicly acknowledged her, not in secret, not with whispers, openly, clearly, with pride. Her father looked at her with eyes that had softened at last. "You were tested before the crown," he said, "and you did not break." The hall rose. Not all at once, but enough. Enough for the sound of respect to spread through the room like a tide. Some bowed their heads. Some clapped. Some stood quietly, knowing they were witnessing the full turning of a story they had mocked only days before. Major gifts were announced. Words of loyalty followed. Powerful families stepped forward one after another, offering support, respect, partnership, and congratulations. The same world that once saw Lillian as a cleaner and divorcee now rose to honor her as the woman who would lead one of the most powerful families in the country. And through it all, Lawrence stood nearby, not pushing himself forward, not claiming anything, just there, calm, watchful. The one man in that room who had truly seen her before the title, before the luxury, and before the applause. He had seen her in a cleaner's uniform, under pressure, with steady hands and a brave heart. And Lillian knew it. Across the hall, Femi stood with his family, but they no longer looked like people expecting favor. They looked like people watching a door close forever. As the truth settled fully, something inside Femi seemed to fall apart. Now he understood everything, not just one piece. Everything. He understood that the Adeyemi family had only risen because Lillian had quietly supported them. He understood that the Okoro contract had been her birthday gift to him. He understood that Vanessa had lied again and again. And worst of all, he understood that every single time Lillian spoke truth, he had chosen pride over faith. He moved before anybody could stop him. He walked toward Lillian, ignoring the stares around him, and dropped to his knees. The room reacted at once. Mrs. Margaret gasped. Clara burst into tears. Vanessa looked terrified. Femi raised his eyes to Lillian, and for the first time in a long time, he did not look proud. He looked broken. "Lillian," he said hoarsely, "please, forgive me." No one spoke. He went on, voice shaking now. "I was blind. I was foolish. I did not know. I did not understand anything. Please, just give me one more chance. Lillian looked down at him quietly. He kept talking. I know now. I know what you did for me. I know what you sacrificed. I know everything Vanessa said was false. I know I failed you, but please, please let me make it right. Then, because he was still Femi, he reached for the easiest escape. He pointed toward Vanessa. She poisoned everything, he said. She lied to me. She pushed us apart. Stop. Lillian's voice was not loud, but it cut through him at once. Vanessa froze. So did everybody else. Lillian looked at Femi steadily. Vanessa did not force you to insult me, she said. She did not force you to betray me. She did not force you to divorce me. She did not force you to call me nothing after all I did for you. Femi's lips trembled, but no words came. The worst part is not that you were poor once, Lillian said. The worst part is that you had a blind heart even after being helped. Tears gathered in Mrs. Margaret's eyes. Clara covered her mouth. Femi reached toward Lillian as if desperation alone could pull her back. I love you, he said quickly. I swear, I still love you. Lillian's face changed then, not into anger but into something sadder. No, she said. Do not say that. Femi stared. You never loved me, she said. Not truly. If you had, you would have seen me when I stood beside you with nothing to gain. He shook his head wildly. That is not true. It is, Lillian said. You do not regret losing me. You regret losing what you could have had with me. That sentence landed like a blow. Femi's shoulders dropped. His face crumpled in a way that made even strangers look away. Lillian stepped back from him. I am done, she said. And with those words, she refused him completely. Mrs. Margaret broke first after that. She turned on Vanessa with a cry full of rage and regret. You ruined us. Clara joined in through tears. You lied to us. You lied about everything. Femi, still on his knees, looked at Vanessa with hatred now, as if blaming her could change what he had done with his own hands. Vanessa tried to defend herself, but Lillian raised a hand slightly, and the room quieted. No, she said. They all looked at her. Do not put everything on her now. Mrs. Margaret's mouth trembled, but she only exposed what was already inside all of you, Lillian said. Silence. Greed, she continued. Pride. Class arrogance. That was already in your hearts. Vanessa did not create it. She only found it and used it. No one answered. Because no one could. The ceremony ended with Lillian officially honored, blessed, and welcomed fully into her place. And once it was over, the fall of the Adeyemi family began almost at once. Business people pulled away from them. Calls stopped coming. Meetings were cancelled. Names that once answered their messages suddenly became too busy. Their business reputation collapsed so fast that even they could hardly understand it. Within weeks, their social standing died. Adeyemi Construction, already weak beneath its pride, finally gave way and sank into full bankruptcy. But the worst shock came later. It happened when the truth about Vanessa finally came out. She was not rich, not even from an ordinary wealthy family. Her designer life had been borrowed from lies. Her money had come from old politicians, aging senators, married CEOs, and powerful men she clung to in exchange for gifts, access, and temporary comfort. She had built a false life around herself and hoped to use that borrowed image to secure Femi and escape the poverty she truly came from. Now that plan had failed too. When the truth came out fully, even Femi was too stunned to speak at first. Mrs. Margaret sat down like her legs could no longer carry her. Clara cried for 2 days. And Femi looked like a man who had finally seen the full cruelty of his own choices. His mother's regret became something ugly and deep. Again and again she said the same thing in broken whispers. We threw away a gem. But it was worse than that. They had not thrown away a gem for a stone. They had thrown away a gem for a stone already rotting from the inside. Vanessa had been guilty of all the things she accused Lillian of, and far more. In the end, the Adeyemi family became a warning story. A family that ate the blessing inside its own house because it looked too ordinary. A family that threw away loyalty for appearance. A family that reached for shine and ended up holding dirt. Time moved. The noise around the scandal slowly faded. The storms settled. And one quiet evening, Lillian stood on the balcony of a private family residence, looking out over the city lights. She had changed clothes after another long day of meetings, greetings, and new responsibilities. The crown of expectation was real now. Her name carried even more weight than before. But her heart was still her own. She heard footsteps behind her and did not turn immediately. She already knew who it was. Lawrence stopped beside her. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then he said softly, "The city is finally breathing again." Lillian smiled faintly. "Maybe." He looked at her. "I want to tell you something without interruption this time." She turned to face him fully. Lawrence did not hesitate. "I love you," he said. The words were simple. No performance. No pressure. Just truth. He continued. "And I need you to know something clearly. I did not fall for you because you are rich. I did not fall for a family name. I did not fall for the title you carry now." Lillian held his gaze. "I fell for the woman who walked into a collapsing boardroom in a cleaner's uniform and saved my company without trembling," he said. "I fell for the woman who stayed calm when powerful people mocked her, the woman who kept her dignity when others had none, the woman who never had to announce her worth to be worth something." Lillian's eyes softened. Lawrence let out a slow breath. "And yes," he added, with the smallest smile, "I am grateful Femi let you go. Because of that, I got the chance to know a gem honestly." That touched her deeply. For a moment she looked away. Then she looked back. The feelings in her heart for him were no longer small. She knew that now. But she also knew what loss had cost her. 2 years. 2 precious years of trust, silence, sacrifice, and pain. So when she spoke, her voice was gentle but clear. "I feel strongly for you too." Something in Lawrence's face changed at once. But she lifted a hand lightly. "Do not rush me," she said. "I have lost 2 years already. I will not give my heart carelessly again." Lawrence nodded without argument. "I am not asking you to rush," he said. "I'm only asking you not to shut the door." Lillian looked at him for a long moment. Then she gave him the kind of smile that begins in the eyes before it reaches the lips. "I am not shutting it." That was enough. More than enough. Lawrence smiled too, and in that quiet place above the city, with the old pain behind them and the future still unwritten, something new began between them. Not a rushed love, not a careless one, but something stronger. Something honest. Something that had seen the worst and still chose hope. Lillian turned back to the city lights, and Lawrence stood beside her. The night was calm. Her heart was healing. And for the first time in a very long time, the future no longer felt like something to survive. It felt like something she could walk into with peace.